morning and welcome back to the show. It is Tuesday, February 13th. I'm so glad to have you guys on here because we got a lot to talk about today. What is it like without football on the screen? What is it like without the Super Bowl and the playoffs and regular season, all the morale? We'll get into that. But before we do that, we're going to go into a couple of things that people mentioned and some people did not know, which was kind of interesting. The 49ers, some of them claimed, during the Super Bowl, they did not know the overtime rules. That's what's being said. Yesterday, during the game, and then obviously into yesterday and today, people are like, look, we didn't even know the rules of overtime. We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't realize that it had changed. And some of the players, which I have right here, mentioned it very clear. Listen, we had no idea it was like that. No one ever told us these rules and regulations. And then head coach Shanahan of the 49ers said, yeah, we went over it several times. And then obviously some of the players keep saying, no, we never even knew. Now, are they making excuses or are they being truthful? Because to be honest, the NFL changes rules every single year. Throughout the year, changes are being made. Obviously, we went down that road where you can't hit quarterbacks. You can't hit below the knees. Then it was you can't hit like this. You can't use your head. And then it was the overtime rules. And it has changed because before it was if you receive the ball in overtime and you score a touchdown, the game is over. If you kick the field goal, the other team gets a chance to come back and tie or win with a touchdown. So some of these players were saying like, look, we're going for a touchdown regardless. We don't know what's going on. We had no idea that the rules and the regulations have changed, which is very confusing because you're in the National Football League. You're literally in the National Football League. If you don't know these rules and regulations during the Super Bowl, there's some concerns. And this is a big attest to why Andy Reid was so special. And I'm not saying that, quote unquote, you need to be special to give your players the current rules and regulations of football. I mean, it's kind of obvious. If rules changed, your organization is notified and you let your players know. Everybody that talked in the locker room for the Chiefs said, we went over this in preseason. We went over this during the regular season. We went over this during the playoffs. We went over this before the Super Bowl. They were well aware of all the changes, but the 49ers were not. Now, is that an attest to, the hype, the energy, the first time getting a chance to be on a big stage, forgetting some things, or did your coach just not go over that? This is also concerning because the NFL changes rules yearly. And I think if you ask me, and I've said this countless times on this program, and I've said it before in a couple weeks ago, and then even last year, it was like, look, changing rules as far as overtime rules, I don't think that's a big deal, right? Making changes to make the game better, to make the final better, let two teams get a chance to touch the football. And when the time runs out, it's like going to the first quarter. It's not like overtime, the clock, ends and it's like the game's over. No, you actually have another quarter. It's a little confusing. But what I don't like is the rules and regulations for hitting players. You got to be able to play on the fly. And I've said this, you got to be able to play to the whistle, play 100%, make a tackle, not use the tip of your head. Obviously there's some injuries and some concussions issues, but making plays, hitting quarterbacks, trying to take the ball, playing to the whistle, playing 100% is important. And they kind of slowed that down in some of the regulations. But the overtime thing with the 49ers players coming back saying, look, we didn't even know. This is confusing on a lot of levels. You're in the Super Bowl. This is the biggest game of the year. And we're going to get into this at the end of today's program of America's sport because football is still America's sport. And so we're going to go into that. And so if you don't know the rules and regulations, there are some issues there, and I think they need to discuss that. Definitely need to stop changing rules year by year. We're going to move on to another topic here. Is Dak Prescott the Cowboys' main issue? A lot of people, a lot of Dallas fans, a lot of people in these organizations are like, well, I love the Cowboys, but they just don't do this. Or I love Jerry Jones, but he just doesn't do this. And then it's, I love Dak Prescott, but he's the problem. And people are like, well, Dak Prescott, I don't know. I love Dak Prescott. I hate Dak Prescott. If Dak Prescott wins a Super Bowl, all those people convert. I love Dak Prescott, right? It's just normal. No matter how you spin it, you're going to have lovers, you're going to have haters. But the truth of the matter is, Dak Prescott had a contract of 4 years, $160 million. What should the Dallas Cowboys do? At this point, the only thing to do is to play Dak Prescott through his contract. But it's like, is he the issue? And people are like, well, around him, he's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of players everywhere, receivers, tight end, running back. McCarthy has him in the playoffs, right? Great record. They're there, and people can say, well, he's missing this. Patrick Mahomes has opened more eyes and has said, look, the quarterback is even more important than people thought years ago. Back in the day, everyone knew the quarterback wasn't important. But at this point, people really understand the importance of your quarterback, okay? And let me just break this down even better. CeeDee Lamb, and we've been talking about this, CeeDee Lamb, and heading into the next season, it's the off season now, and we're going to slowly slide out of the NFL and talk more about the NBA and a lot of other stuff. But currently right now, CeeDee Lamb is still got his back to Dak Prescott. Why? Because his mom was talking smack on his social media, and so people are like, well, is Dak Prescott going to come back even stronger now? This is your teammate. And people that have watched this program before, I've mentioned this, and people are asking now, is Dak Prescott the guy? Even if Dak Prescott is the guy, his teammates have to rally behind him to make him the guy. All these changes he has to make, they were talking about him being MVP. Dak Prescott, all the accolades, the passing yards, the touchdown passes, running for first downs, right? CeeDee Lamb's mom's talking smack, then Michael Parsons' brother's talking smack. And it's like, okay, is Dak Prescott the guy? And I always go back to this now. The quarterback runs the show. The quarterback is your offense. The quarterback is in the meeting rooms with the coaches. He's in that lounge talking to the coaches, then up in the meeting rooms when all the players start walking in for prep in the morning, in the training room, going through their locker, getting all the stuff they need for the practice that day, walking up to the window, you have in all these locker rooms, hey, I need this, I need cleats, I need this, whatever. The quarterbacks are upstairs. In the meetings, listen to the coaches. The head coach, the offensive coordinator, the quarterback coach, sitting there going, okay, here's the install for today. We're running this run play. We're running this pass play. We're running this play action play. So your quarterback is so important. And Dak Prescott went from, wow, he's in the MVP conversation. He's in the MVP conversation. Then it's Dak, is it Brock Purdy? And then it was, Lamar Jackson. And it kept going back and forth. So Dak Prescott can't be that bad if people are like, he's in the MVP conversation, right? And then it's like, Dak Prescott's terrible. Got to get rid of him. That is how the NFL works, right? And my famous thing is, what have you done for me lately? What have you done for me lately? That's the team. That's the organization, more importantly, looking at Dak Prescott. And then it's the team looking at Dak Prescott like, you're my quarterback. We didn't win. Whose fault is it? And that's where a lot of the eyes fall. So is Dak Prescott the main issue? At this point, the only answer you can say is yes. Because even though he's good, he's talented, he's in the MVP conversation, Dak Prescott doesn't win a playoff game. But then Patrick Mahomes, and I know they're different quarterbacks. I know we're comparing the GOAT, quote unquote GOAT, the current GOAT, one of the best of all time, might eventually be the greatest of all time, passing Tom Brady maybe in time. We're not comparing them to, but we are saying what's the difference here right now. Not trying to say, hey, they're in the same boat at all, but we have to look at a spade here. They're quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes won a Super Bowl without a real true star receiver. Yeah, he had Rice. He played well, but he wasn't that star. He wasn't Deebo Samuel on the other side. He wasn't CeeDee Lamb on the other side, right? So Dak Prescott has those players. He has a great running back. He has a great tight end. He has a good defense. What it comes down to is how good is Dak Prescott and how will he play. So a lot of people will tell you he's the problem. I think the team has to rally behind him. I think they need to make some decisions and believe in their quarterback for next season. Let's move on to Kenny Pickett. Okay, should the Steelers move past Kenny Pickett? I'm not saying move past right this very second, but should they start thinking, look, I got his contract right in front of me. Kenny Pickett, 4 years, $14 million, right? $7 million guaranteed. That money is gone. That money is in the trash. Now, 2024, he gets $1.9 million. In 2025, he gets $2.6 million. So we're not talking he's getting, $20 million, $30 million, $40. We're not talking all that crazy money. But the conversation is, should they move past Kenny Pickett? Not this current season, but should they start looking, hey, 2024 is going to come around. You're getting, 1.9, 2025, 2.6. You're not breaking the bank. But we got to start growing. Is Kenny Pickett a real starting quarterback in the National Football League? Currently he is, but is he on most people's radars? Now, the question is, as I watched Kenny Pickett make these plays and passes, his morale's great. He played at Pitt. He, was with the Pittsburgh Panthers. I went there. I liked watching Kenny Pickett play. He was a great college quarterback. But when you compare him to other quarterbacks in the National Football League, they talked about his hand size being too small. I don't think that's a real factor in any kind of, decision making. But is he the long-term solution? Right? Howard, pull that picture up for me behind Kenny. It's like this. Kenny Pickett, and then you got Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph played well this season. Obviously, he came in third. They let Mitch Trubisky go. Mitch Trubisky was a first-round selection, a second-round pick. The Steelers let him go. He's gone. Fans obviously didn't love him. They were booing him, saying Mason Rudolph the whole time. Mason Rudolph gets in the game and plays good. Mason Rudolph played pretty good. Lost to the Bills, but played pretty good in the playoffs. And people cannot really complain about his gameplay because he played well. But the problem is Kenny Pickett the future? Is Kenny Pickett the future? And here's where the conversation comes in. Mike Tomlin made a decision, right? The organization made a decision. The owner made a decision to select Kenny Pickett. Now, it's almost like a father-son thing. I got to play my kid. And I'm not knocking Kenny Pickett. I like Kenny Pickett. But it's not like you get a guy, and this is currently, I'm not saying you can't come out this season and play well. I'm just saying, from what we've seen, what the NFL seen, what all the fans have seen, they like Kenny Pickett. He's from, he played at Pitt. Awesome. But in that locker room right next door to the Pittsburgh Steelers situation and stadium, they had a lot of time to analyze Kenny Pickett and think, is he that good? Is he that talented? Is he the guy for the future after Ben Roethlisberger? Who is going to replace the new dynasty for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Now, I like Kenny Pickett. I just don't think he's your long-term solution. So I keep saying, who are they going to bring in? Who is Tomlin going to bring in to cause a little bit of competition? A bigger name guy, a veteran? Draft picks have not worked out. Now, they didn't draft Mitch Trubisky. He got drafted, and then the Steelers picked him up. But he was a second pick, first round. And then Kenny Pickett was a top pick in the draft. The problem is he going to be the long-term solution? And that's where I keep going at with this. And I just think at this point in time, you let things play out for this season, give Kenny Pickett his last chance, his last morale to get in and throw a couple passes, play a couple games, see how he does, see how he fares out. If he starts winning games, you start morale, the morale starts building behind Kenny Pickett. But if he gets in there and we're still having that 500 season, it's not going. Kenny Pickett's got to look to be traded or be a second-string quarterback heading into 2025. So let's move on to a conversation I want to talk about. Is football still America's sport? And why this is important, if you're on here right now in the chat, I appreciate you. Comment, is football still America's sport? Just put yes or no. The reason why I'm saying this is every time you put on television, there always has to be some kind of political conversation with sports, right? And then you have Joe Biden. He said something outlandish, and we're not going to go down the whole political speech here. But I'm just saying, he brought in something about sports, and it was like, what did he just say? And it's like, let's keep that out of sports. It doesn't make any sense. But to be honest with you, football is still America's sport, right? This is what people dreamed, died for. Literally guys out there running around, smacking their heads. People were dying on the field. Thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of millions of fans a year are at the games, all the stadiums. If you leave here, America, and you go to another country, you have soccer, predominantly the sport. Now, America is starting to adopt soccer as a pretty strong sport. Nothing against soccer. I'm just saying, in America, football is America's sport. And so as you're getting out there and you're watching all the games and all the interruptions and it's the media relays and then it's, okay, what is the reasoning? Why is this such a big time game? People that are watching for the first time, people that are watching football come to this country for the first time going, holy shit, why are people watching this? Why is the Super Bowl so big? It's not the World Cup in their head. But it really is because football brought people together. Political atmosphere is trying to take jabs at certain things. Football brought people together. Races, cultures, the dynamic of people, white and black on the same team. I'm sure you've watched, if you watch football, remember the Titans. And it's very true. You have white people, black people coming together on the same team. And at some point you say, yeah, that's my brother. I'm fighting for him, regardless of the skin or race or anything going on. So what I love about football is it's a team sport. There's 11 guys on the field at one time from both sides. At the running back position, if I had beef with my offensive line, I'm going to have a bad day. Why? Because I can't run anywhere. Not going to block for me. So it's in your best interest to be friends with your offensive line, whether they're white, black, Spanish, or whatever. So football, America has used football in other sports, not just football, but it is America's sport, other sports for entertainment purposes, but also kids going to college, again, entertainment on field. And then it brings culture and all kinds of people together from a little age, a little league, all the way through high school, into college, into the pro level. So at the end of the day, football is still America's sport. And I just think all the political stuff outside of it, why are they doing this? Then it was a race thing. And then it was, during the Super Bowl, it was a racist. People started saying, we had a black, you want to call it song or singers or whatever. And it's like, okay, white, black, Spanish, whatever. Then you have Spanish people saying, how come they didn't show any Spanish people? Usher was on the field. Listen, the Super Bowl is the Super Bowl. Money talks, bullshit walks. If your commercial sucks, but you want to pay $1 million for 15 minutes, you're going to get some airtime, right? It was the Bud Light commercials before where it was Bud, and all the frogs on the lily pads, all that. And then it was all these new commercials. We showed a couple. And now a lot of it still is political. Money talks, bullshit walks. It's still America's sport. We love it. It will continue to grow. Hopefully people leave the politics aside. Let's move on. Jake Paul calls out Sean Strickland. Now, this is kind of important. Jake Paul calls out Sean Strickland, and I have the message in the Twitter message that he had tweeted to him, and it says, Sean Strickland, you're embarrassing for trying to stop Sneeko like that. You weren't even able to drop someone with no experience while going all out. You're a hard boxer that only picks on inexperienced people. He said, I will fly you to Puerto Rico and we can fight on camera. If you win, I'll give you $1 million, half of your net worth. But if you get dropped, you have to get better. His new company he's been doing for sports betting, Better, BETR, tattooed on you. DM me. But just like Patty, I'm guessing you'll find a way to run. If you don't know Patty's this very interesting fighter that a lot of people have watched in the UFC. He's very entertaining. And basically, Jake Paul calls him out and he goes, hey, listen, I'll give you $1 million, half of your net worth. If you can knock him, if you can knock Jake Paul out, you get that. That is something that I got to tell you, Sean Strickland should consider half of your net worth. But what I want to talk about right now and why this is so important is what has Jake Paul done? And people that are watching this right now, look, I've mentioned Jake Paul a couple times over the last couple years. I think this is important to understand. Jake Paul, when I first saw him on there as a YouTuber trying to fight, it was like, this guy's kind of corny, whatever. Yeah, I don't know, yada, yada, yada. I don't really know if Jake Paul is going to be able to fight people. Then he fought like a little basketball player. Then he fought a guy that was in UFC. He wasn't really a fighter. And then he starts knocking out UFC champions, people that were great wrestlers, great fighters. I mean, they weren't quote unquote boxers, but he was doing his thing. Whether you hate on Jake Paul or not, I come on here and I tell the truth. I'll give an unbiased opinion. I'm not jealous that Jake Paul's making hundreds of millions of dollars, whatever he's making, all this kind of money. I like what he's doing for sports, advocating for people to go out there and do what you want. Don't sit back, whether you're on YouTube or whether you're doing something else. Get out there and do what you want. Jake Paul's doing that. And I got to tell you, he went from being a YouTuber to this guy right here. I mean, this guy, when I look at this guy, and if you're in the chat right now, do you like Jake Paul? Is he a real boxer? You could be honest in the chat right now. Is Jake Paul a real boxer or is he just a clown? Like that really? I mean, at the end of the day, clown or not, what he's doing for sports, what he's doing for just entertainment purposes, he's bringing people up. He has a sports betting app, Better, which is great, but he's bringing people that are behind him. Hey, you want to be a boxer? You're great. I'll put you front stage. He's calling people out, selling tickets, pay-per-views, money. People are making more money fighting Jake Paul than they will sometimes, and it could be a UFC championship bout because Jake Paul is bringing the viewership. So a lot of people that are watching Jake Paul, clown or not a clown, is putting butts in seats like Taylor Swift puts butts in seats, right? Like Lamar Jackson puts butts in seats, like famous celebrities put butts in seats. That is what Jake Paul does, and that's where the money comes from. So all these people that are out there that are like, I don't really like Jake Paul. He's not that good of a fighter. He's boxing clowns, or he's a clown. Yeah, that might be true. People might think that, but the training that goes into it. Relocating from California, moving to Puerto Rico, living there full time, getting a house, training, getting the best people around him to train him, to run on a daily basis, to make this happen. He calls out Sean Strickland for a reason, and I believe they keep spelling Sean's name different. So I just keep switching it too. S-H-A-W-N or S-E-A-N. Keep seeing all different places. Don't really care. But he calls out Sean Strickland. And so as I'm watching the conversation of these two fighters, it's like they need to fight. But should Jake Paul fight in the UFC? That's what I want to know. Do you guys want to see Jake Paul fight in the UFC? That's where the money's going to come in. Him fighting in boxing is great, and yeah, boxing makes more money. I understand that. If you can get Jake Paul to fight in the UFC, you're talking people want to see Jake Paul get his ass beat, right? And the UFC's not just boxing. UFC is kicking, it's grappling, it's on the canvas. It's gruesome. It's a bloody sport. I mean, it's going to be something that people would want to do. So if I'm Sean Strickland, I'm going, hey, how about this? If you fight me in the UFC, I'll give you $1 million, right? Like that is where the conversation should go. And I think that's something that people should promote. Jake Paul in the UFC would be the most dominant fight to watch because there would be so many people watching that pay-per-view. You can put that to $199. From $69 or $79, put it at $199 because most of the world hates Jeff Paul. That's why you see F Jake Paul all the time. So that concludes the show for today. I just want to say thank all of you for watching. And if it's your first time watching, hit the like button on the platform as we expand our show. Obviously, with networks and stuff, we keep on growing every single day. And you can also join the Mason Mob. If you want to join the Mason Mob, you just request it on social media or right here. We send you a link and you could join right away. And you'll get a verification symbol next to your name. And slowly but surely after the first month, you will get a money symbol. And things will start coming your way. Thanks for tuning in today. We're here every single day, Monday through Friday on the Brandon Mason Show, as we have our guest scheduled that should be coming on this week. If not, it will be next week as we're finishing paperwork and documents so they can come on legally. Guys, thanks for watching. Enjoy your Tuesday, and until next time.